So we're here at Photokina 2018 in Camera Rescue's booth with Laurence from Reflex Camera. For those who don't know, Reflex Camera is going to be the new Reflex camera shooting film and with interchangeable mounts and backs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That launched on Kickstarter a year and a half ago or so.
No, well, that's interesting. It finished December 7th.
Okay, so they're still working on it, and it's happening. So he's here to give us a bit of updates and how he decided to do this. So Laurence, tell us about Reflex.
So about the camera, it's something that came through. I was part of a platform for young photographers. What we do is we would feature a photographer every day. Mm-hmm. The platform is called If You Leave, and we realized that a lot of the people, maybe it was about the aesthetic, but we realized a lot of people, when we looked at the demographics of the platform, were very young adapters. So we thought, okay, well, there's something happening there, and I guess we'd already seen some resurgence earlier in the vinyl industry, where the format didn't die. Even though the industry standards had shifted, something was worthy enough for the medium to still exist. And I think film photography has that same thing. The quality is still unparalleled in its own way, and therefore it is still a valid medium. It comes with its own way of working, its own workflow, but essentially, if there would be no need for it to exist anymore, it would be gone by now. So something about it makes us want to still shoot film. So I thought we did a exhibition with the platform, and I wanted to give the finalists a film camera to shoot on. And the idea was to, like the Pentax, we wanted to engrave our logo on the front for the 3 winners, and I thought that would be a nice, a nice touch. And I started looking, and I realized that only the Nikon FM10, this is 3 years ago, was still being produced, and that was already Cosina manufacturing them. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, that's going to be sad if I love second-hand cameras. I've only shot second-hand cameras my whole life since I was in film school. But the idea that there wouldn't be any new camera on the market anymore was something that maybe I felt was going to be a gap somewhere, and that was the thought. And then 3 years later, I was in a position where I had to close shop for a while because we had a flood in the stockroom of my business, and it allowed me to work on a project or take time off or anything, waiting for insurance payout. And I think that the same day that I had to announce that we were going to close shop and not have the business or the community run any longer, I made a first sketch. And again, there was no pressure, there was nothing driving it except for curiosity. So I looked at the market, I studied it for a bit. I looked at the vinyl industry, how they had bounced back and become a niche, stable community. And I thought, well, if I would bring back an SLR, how would I do it? So that's how it started, almost like a little game.
Yeah, it just happened to be the right time with the right mentality to start something like this.
and then I told the story to a few people, and it seemed to spark an interest with other people, and some people came aboard with ideas, and it was all like a big big whiteboard with oh, let's do this and let's do this, and then we filtered it out, and I sat down with quite a few really interesting people from both the cinema, with cinema background and photography background, and then we started drawing stuff, and I went all the way back to 1947 to the Contax S to look at the first SLR and how it was, what the pure design features were about it. And what was driven through engineering and what was driven to design and what was driven through marketing elements. And then what I did is I pretty much bought any broken camera I could find on eBay and took it apart.
Took it apart and study it.
And looked at, how could we take the best elements out of 75 years of SLRs and put it in almost like if this is going to be the final stance, let's see what we can make. And so that's how the idea started to work. One of the thoughts was, okay, if we're going to be the only camera in the market, it would be great if people could use their own optics, their existing lenses.
There's so many lenses in the market.
Exactly.
Why not mount a little bit of everything? Which I think could have something to do with cinematography, where you can change mounts. There's a lot of cameras you change from a PL to an EF to all these things, which is interesting because there's a lot of market secondhand lenses that are good. Now that everyone's adapting them to mirrorless, so if you could make that similar concept on the reflex camera, it can be used with anyone.
And there's an interesting point there, because in the beginning the M42, the screw mount, was well on its way to become the industry standard. I think it's even called the universal mount. And when Contax came out with the S, it had the M42, and even when the early Japanese SLRs came out, the Miranda, the Pentax, they also adapted the M42. And then I think there was a study around that point where it was said that for one lens that someone would buy, they would go through about 2 or 3 camera bodies. And it's been said that was the point where a lot of the manufacturers, from a marketing point of view, said, well, then if we can lock
in our system,
our users into a system, then they're going to stay with us for the changes of the 2-3 bodies. And that is still, I think, in a way correct if you look at how long lenses survive versus cameras. It's good to say that.
And you choose your camera based on the lenses you have.
Exactly.
The mounts. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And then, so once that idea was out there, and Nikon came with the F mount, and everyone started doing their own mounts, partially to bypass each other's patents, they had to redesign some of the aspects, and that's why the flange distance and the locking mechanisms and the
one goes one way, the other one goes the other way,
and the coupling, and most of that was done to bypass, to not be infringing patents. And so the biggest challenge for us is how we can bypass
everyone.
A dozen of specifically designed not to be bypassed parts, and then we looked at, is there another format where they have to do that, and then large photography was the first thing that came to mind, because you have a whole, you change the board because the shutter is on the lens, and then Red, not very long ago, came out with a very similar thing where you change the whole plate. But instead of the mount, you just screw the plate out.
So it's faster.
On the other hand, it's a consumer product, so we didn't want to put screws. The idea for someone to start screwing something apart is also the idea that I'm like messing with something that I shouldn't be messing with. So we designed it so that when the back comes free, there's a locking system, but you can change the lens out by sliding the plate.
So you can't change the mount if there's film on, or the back comes off with the film and it's light tight.
Yeah. There's a dark slide on the back. Yeah.
Kind of like the Mamiya 7 has a little dark slide, so you can change lenses.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the interchangeable back kind of comes from medium format photography, and the idea of an interchangeable
front
plate or board
comes from large format or cinematography, kind of a mix.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the Kickstarter was successful.
Yeah.
That made it a reality, a real reality, let's put it that way. So you've been developing the lenses and the body. The lenses is a surprise, I think. You guys wanted to do it, but we have 3 of the prototypes here. So tell me, what made you decide to make your own mounts, your own lens for your eye mount, which is the mount for your camera, and other lenses. Tell us a bit about why about the lenses.
So the idea was that we would come to Photokina 2018 with the camera, We were going to ship it late August. And then in silence, we'd been working on, the idea was to come back with an interesting range of lenses, especially because the lenses on the Reflex, if you mount them, they're manual lenses. So we thought, well, we're definitely also going to come out with a coupled system, and that's going to be our own. That's going to be our own lens that we will fit on it.
This was a 40 1.8.
So the lens, this first lens that is our design is a 40 1.8. We will follow up with a 75 1.8 and a 25 1.8. So it's going to be a fast, quirky focal.
Not the normal numbers.
Exactly. And it comes from, especially the 40 is something that is quite personal to me, because I really like to shoot the old 70s single lens rangefinders. And all of them had either a 45 or a 40 mil, and all of them actually have a really fast lens, and all of them in a very compact form factor. And if you look at
40,
but that was always my, because I love this little pancake lens, but it's slow, and I'm a low light shooter, and on film cameras you don't have too many options. So the other thing that it had to be a fast.
Okay, so 1.8 is a nice
for a 40. Yeah, that's quite a nice.
But you chose to do different mounts, which will work on your camera.
Right. So since we had the optical design, but also since the camera is having its delay, we decided to also present it in a Canon EF for SLR, and then adaptable to technically also the Micro Four Thirds and the EF, the Fuji X series. And come with a dedicated mirrorless. So this is a Sony E mount, and there we had some room to play with. Like we added
the old school depth of field, which I miss in every single lens nowadays.
Exactly, and we have a declicked aperture.
For cinematography.
Yeah, it's got 10 blades. It's quite a. Yeah, I have to say, like I only received it an hour before I had to board my flight. And yeah, we've already shot it on a couple of Sonys here at the fair. I'm still dying to find out how it does on a film camera. But on paper it is a very sharp lens. I would love to see a modern lens perform on a film camera, just to see how much you can do at full open. Maybe actually gain a little bit of what, like my main lens is or my favorite lens since 20 years is a Nikkor 1.2. It's a 55 or 58.
58. There's a 58 and there's a 51.2.
58 then. But at 1.2 it is extremely shallow and soft, and you have to really hit. It's 1 out of 3. And it would be interesting to see if this could add maybe a little bit of sharpness to like a full open.
Your camera is in development. You said it's been late.
Yes.
I follow your Kickstarter news, and I've seen that you're working on it.
Yeah.
But to the people that backed it or are interested, when do you see more things happening? I won't say a release date because that's putting you on the line. Because maybe it can be a year or it can be 6 months.
We put ourselves, we set ourselves a new deadline, which is shipping by Christmas.
That's good.
We have to take it day by day. We are a small company. We are entering an industry that is actually a very closed industry. There's not many manufacturers out there. Traditionally, there's a reason for it. It's because, tomorrow there's a talk here. We are at the what is it? The innovation booth. We're in hall 5.1. Yeah.
On your bracelet it says
it's called Imaging Lab, and it's kind of like startup innovation. And there's a talk tomorrow that I'm going to be having, and cheekily I had to find a title for it. I said, well, I'm going to call it how we're building a $1 million camera on a budget. And it's cheeky and it's it's slightly sensational, but it's also true. If we would have a full-time team working on it, we only the wages would have been
over that.
And so there have been, I think it was even Camera Rescued very early on. They said, well, you know, how are they going to pull it off? Because traditionally, you know, this costs a lot of money. And to start with, if we would have done it a couple of years ago, we wouldn't have had succeeded in any way. We needed 3D printing to be affordable to us. We wouldn't have, if we would have had to do this on a traditional, in a traditional way, we would have come a week into prototyping on the design prototype, just because it wouldn't be able to be doing. But not only the 3D printing and the production runs that could be on a smaller scale, and the fact that, you know, everything's more accessible. Some of the IoT market or the evolution in IoT is interesting for us because a lot of the sensorial devices have now are now readily available. So like the light meter sensor, our microprocessor is actually an ESP32, so we can run existing libraries on it. That was also one of the things that we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to run the core of the camera on an open source. The hot shoe, for example, that's something something actually new to the camera. We always wanted it to be a hybrid hot shoe, to do something more than just flash, or be an accessory shoe. And the idea was where Sony now has the connection points. Well, we've taken it one bit further in a way that it's a USB-C on the inside, and we have a swivel mount because the hot shoe actually is on the side of the camera, since our rewinder is on the bottom, like on the Leica M5. We have real estate here, and so the hot shoe is here, and we have an add-on which is a swivel, so you can also focus the flash if needed. But the swivel has a USB-C on top of the traditional, you know, X and ground, which need to be quite, you know, quite solid cables. But all the data ports will allow you to, for example, if you want to, I don't know, if people want to add a sonar for distance measuring or some of these things, that's part of what the capabilities of the microprocessor that we use. It's
going to give you a port to be able to do other things that maybe you guys didn't do.
Yeah, and the idea that's with everything on the Reflex, the idea is that if people want to, you know, if people want to make a back for it, we will give them we will give them the files that they can create. If they want to make an automated back for Reflex and we haven't done one yet, or, you know, they don't like what we do, you know, let them make their own. If they want to start playing with the eye plate and do something with it that we haven't thought of, it was great. You know, if the more people come on our platform, the happier we are.
More interesting it is, and more dynamic. Okay, so I see you guys are working on a lot of things. You actually said you've moved to China to be able to be on top of this and do things faster paced. Will you continue being there while production and set, when it's set to sell, it'll go with a lens, the set of primes, it was going to be a few, so you said a 40, 1.8, 25, 75.
Yeah. So the lens, I mean, we're going to run a Kickstarter in November for the first one. And essentially the lens will be the ones for the different systems will be out before Reflex, and the Reflex one will come out together with the camera.
Okay.
Now, even, you know, with me being in China, what we have to do is we have to work with the budget that we have, and that is not a lot. That is just enough to produce. However, if it means that we have to, you know, slow things down in order to get it right, we will have to prioritize delivering a little bit later
and doing a good product
over rushing things, because we will have one shot to do it right. However, I don't want to say we're not going to put a date on it, because that won't. We also need something to drive us. And I have to find that balance with my team to, you know, on one hand have them at hand, because, you know, the longer we stretch it,
the more
time but luckily, the good thing about Reflex is that, and that's what I was saying, is like we have to do it on a budget, but therefore the engineers involved, the people involved are all people that want to be involved, and can come in it when their time is there to, you know, work on a part, to finish a design, to take it, you know, to do DFM on it. So, you know, we have to walk our own pace. On the other hand, we want to deliver, and so we've set Christmas this year. We are going to do everything to do that.
Okay.
If it's not going to be Christmas, maybe, you know, it'll be a little bit later, but...
You're pushing for Christmas and see if you can make it and not just push it a little bit.
We are, you know, we're at a stage where the DFM is done. There is a few parts where, you know, we need to get the price down a bit because, you know, we're running a fairly small batch for industry standard. You know, we're running 2,000 units. There's a few things that need to be done. Okay. There's a few things that need to be sorted out. On the other hand, you know, we have you know, pre-orders ready. We have the people backing or that have backed the Kickstarter that we don't want to disappoint. We know that, you know, we've had to confess that we wouldn't be delivering in time. Yeah. It wasn't easy to do because, however you know, you need to explain yourself. There is people that put their trust in you, and you can only be grateful for that.
No, I understand.
But you don't want to lie, but you don't want to.
Hopefully, this will explain a lot, and people will watch it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Laurence, we're gonna run out of time.
Yeah,
so
no
thank you so much for showing us Reflex and explaining the details that go into it. I understand it's not an easy task.
No.
I hope that next Photokina we will hear with a product, like a real working camera.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
So wait, it's May, right? The next
May
Photokina.
next year, very soon.
I think that's a good date.
Yeah. So thank you for being with us. Great luck with your camera and your talk, and we'll see your product soon.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.